Distinguished fellows and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good day. I'm Roger Clemens, the 2018-2020 Presiding Officer for the International Academy of Food Science and Technology. On behalf of Aman, the current Presiding Officer-elect, and myself, we welcome you to the Academy's virtual experience due to COVID-19. However, this experience does not minimize the significant contributions made by the elected fellows and our distinguished lecturer. We certainly look forward to seeing you in Singapore in 2022. Meanwhile, thank you for joining us for this auspicious occasion. Have a good day. Membership of the International Academy of Food Science and Technology reflects a global distribution by country of eligible scientists. As of 2020, there are more than 400 scientists that were elected to the Academy. For each period between IAFoST World Food Congresses, and no more than 30 individuals may be elected as new fellows. To be eligible as fellows and for election, a person must be recognized as having established an outstanding reputation for scientific accomplishments and/or leadership in the area of food science and technology. Allow me to reiterate, the International Academy of Food Science and Technology, or IAFoST, is an elected group of distinguished food scientists and technologists who collectively form a pool of scientific expertise in their subjects, from which IAFoST membership and affiliated bodies may draw upon, not aligned by expertise, but based on scientific opportunities. Elected fellows of the Academy represent no country, represent no organization, but serve as independent experts to work on and promote high standards of ethics and scientific endeavors. They are at the forefront of IAFoST, helping to strengthen global food science and technology for humanity. The Academy encourages wide communication, discussion, and interaction between similar scientific groups. During the Fellows 2020 election cycle, there were 43 nominees from 15 different countries and 6 of the 7 continents. The qualifications for each nominee were carefully reviewed by 5 Academy leaders. Ultimately, it was you, the current fellows, who elected the 2020 class of fellows. You will no doubt agree that the qualifications of each professional are exceptional. We do sincerely congratulate each new fellow on the election to the Academy. It is truly my professional honor and personal pleasure to introduce the 2020 Distinguished Lecturer, Professor Sir Charles Godfrey. Professor Godfrey leads the team LEAP, Livestock, Environmental, and People, at Oxford University that is focused on food systems research such that the future of foods has positive effects on health, that agriculture is sustainable, and are critical to global economic development. Considering the global population may reach 10 billion by 2050, these 3 characteristics of the food supply are fundamental in seeking solutions for people and the planet. Many countries have dietary guidelines and recommendations for its populations. Professor Godfrey contends that most dietary guidelines are not compatible with global environmental and health targets and are in fact in need of reform. As a member of the 2010 Dietary Guidelines for Americans and one who has carefully evaluated the nutrient availability for future populations, I certainly agree with his assessment. Please welcome our distinguished lecturer, Professor Sir Charles Godfrey.
Hello, this is Charles Godfrey recording a few words from my home just south of Oxford, still in lockdown. I would like to begin by thanking the International Union for inviting me to give the plenary lecture at the World Congress, and I'm hugely sorry not to be there and the Congress not going ahead. I've been to World Congresses before. I've enormously enjoyed them. I've learnt a lot. Visiting New Zealand and Auckland would have been an added pleasure. My mother grew up in New Zealand. I have joint citizenship. It's one of my favourite places on earth. I'm also enormously grateful that the International Academy have elected me a fellow of a member of the International Academy. It is a great honour, and I'm very grateful for that. If I had been able to be with all of you in Auckland at the moment, I hope I would have given a positive lecture arguing that we can feed a global population without wrecking the environment. One of the reasons I'm positive is my background as a population biologist. We know that human population growth is decelerating and that human populations will probably peak sometime this century. So it is possible to intellectually conceive of a time when humanity's demand of the globe for food will begin to plateau. But the way we produce food at the moment is literally unsustainable. And what this figure shows, and I won't go through it in detail, is current and projected effects of the food system on greenhouse gas emissions, land use, fresh water use, and nitrogen and phosphorus pollution. And all of these are high and increasing, and we have to do something about it, because if we don't, we're undermining our capacity to produce food in the future. And when thinking about what we can do, I tend to divide them into 4 areas: production, consumption, waste, and governance. Production, I think the watchword should be sustainable intensification, although I realize some people dislike that term. But essentially, we have to produce more food from the same agricultural footprint with substantially less effects on the environment. And there's a tremendous role for food science and technology on this. We have to be serious on the consumption side about dietary change. The diets we consume at the moment are making us ill and damaging the environment. And there are hard decisions to be made there for individuals, for the private sector, and for governments. The oft-quoted statistic, although the evidence base is not great, is that 1/3 of all food that's produced is wasted. We do need to bear down on that, but also consider that not all food waste is avoidable, and not fall into the trap that food waste is a silver bullet, that is all we need to do. And finally, we need to think very carefully about the governance of the food system. It is incredibly important that food surplus nations are able to efficiently export to food deficit nations. If we get that wrong, then we risk disruption in global food systems with catastrophic effects, especially in the global south. Final slide, just to say 1 or 2 things that I've learned from the COVID pandemic. And forgive me for this being a bit parochial from the UK, but having been largely stuck at home for the last 6 months, 5 months, then parochialism rules. The first message I take is that the global food system, the commodity system, has shown itself to be really quite tremendously resilient through COVID. So I think that is encouraging. We certainly shouldn't be smug and assume it's going to show resilience to all shocks, but that's good news. In the UK, initially, there were problems with supermarket shelves running bare as people overbought at the beginning of lockdown, but that quickly sorted itself out. Curiously, one of the things that caused problems over a longer period was a shortage of flour. And this is a curious set of contingencies. One is that the UK is obsessed about home baking at the moment because of some very successful television programs. And secondly, it turned out that there was no shortage of flour, but there was shortage of the machines that will put flour in 1 kilogram and 2 kilogram sacks, packets that are required for retail. Most of the flour was going out in much bigger sacks to the trade. So an interesting contingent there, which illustrates unexpected things that just turn up. We're seeing an enormous shift to remote buying food over the internet, which has grown by, I think, 30% over the last 6 months. My friends in China say the same thing happened when China went into lockdown. And although it's partly relaxed as it's come out of lockdown, it hasn't gone back to the status quo ante. And it's a cliche, I think, that COVID has been an accelerant. But I think that what we have seen in a move from physical to online purchasing might have happened anyway over 2 or 3 years, but has happened very much faster because of the pandemic. And finally, UK governments have shied away from talking about obesity as one of the issues around food, largely for worries about being accused of nannying. And when they have produced obesity strategies, it's concentrated on children and ignored adults. Now, of course, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, who was elected with a fresh mandate last December, and who in the past has talked about the dangers of the nanny state, he got COVID in March and actually had to spend some time in intensive care, and was told that one of his risk factors that put him in intensive care was the fact that he was on the borderline of being overweight and obese. And partly because of this experience, he has pushed through an obesity strategy that the government produced last July, that people who've looked at this over years have said, well, if not containing everything they would want, is much more advanced than ever they thought a UK government, let alone a Conservative government, would have produced. So again, this is a curious type of contingency, and searching for a silver lining around the pandemic, this is perhaps one. So just a few things that have that I think I've learned about the food system because of COVID, and I'll stop there. But before I go, just once again thank the Academy and the International Union both for the invitation and for electing me a member of the Academy.
Thank you very much, Professor Sir Charles Godfrey, for that stimulating presentation today. And now, as a leader of the Academy, it's my pleasure to recognize and induct the 2020 class of elected fellows.
Cizarettin Alasabal,
Director of Food Institute at TÜBİTAK, Marmara Research Center, Turkey.
Richard Archer,
Professor of Food Technology in the School of Food and Advanced Technology at Massey University, New Zealand.
Bes Bandari,
Professor of Food Process Engineering and Technology, School of Agriculture and Food Scientists, the University of Queensland, Australia.
Sheryl Barringer,
Department of Chair and Professor, Food Science and Technology, Ohio State University, USA.
Jansi Chen,
School of Food Science and Bioengineering, Zhejiang Gongshang University, Hangzhou, China.
Munir Cherian,
Professor Emeritus, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, USA.
Manjit Shinan,
Professor Emeritus, University of Georgia, USA.
Jeffrey Farber,
Director, Canadian Research Institute of Food Safety, Professor of Food Science and Technology, University of Guelph, Canada.
Professor Sir Charles Godfrey,
Hope Professor of Zoology at Jesus College, Oxford, Director of the Oxford Martin School, and Director, Oxford Martin Program on the Future of Food, United Kingdom.
Nafam Hetiarachi,
Professor, Integrated Protein, Bioactives, Nutraceuticals, and Functional Foods, and Food Safety Program, Department of Food Science and Institute for Food Science and Engineering, University of Arkansas, USA.
Liangzhu Jiang,
Director of the National Research Center of Soybean Engineering and Technology, Northeast Agricultural University, China.
Afam Jidiani,
Full Professor, Department of Food Science and Technology, University of Venda, South Africa.
Kyoko Kubamura, Japan.
President of Kubomura Food Advisory Consultants, Japan.
Ken Lee,
Director of Food Innovation Center and Professor of Food Science and Technology, Ohio State University, USA.
Yi Cheng Liu,
Director General of Food Industry Research and Development Institute, Taiwan.
Gustavo Gutierrez Lopez,
Professor of Food Engineering at the National Polytechnic Institute, Mexico.
Kenneth Marsh,
Principal, Kenneth S. Marsh and Associates, Limited, and Executive Director, Woodstock Institute for the Science in Service to Humanity, USA.
Yasuki Matsumura,
Professor, Graduate School of Agriculture, Kyoto University, Japan.
Sheikh Ndai,
Former Senior Official of Food and Agriculture Organization, Executive Director of the Food Information Council for Africa.
Ming Nguyen,
Conjoint Associate Professor, Faculty of Science, University of Newcastle, and Adjunct Associate Professor at Western Sydney University, Australia.
Kesafan Niranjan,
Professor of Food Bioprocessing, Department of Food and Nutritional Sciences, University of Reading, United Kingdom.
Indrawati Uy,
Professor and Head of Department of Food Science, Product Development Research Center, University of Otago, New Zealand.
Adenowo Osinowo,
Chief Executive Officer, BMS International Resources Limited, Nigeria.
Paruchuri Rao,
Distinguished Scientist, Council for Science and Industrial Research, India.
Ricardo Simpson,
Professor, Department of Chemical and Environmental Engineering, Federico Santa Maria Technical University, Chile.
Rakesh Singh,
Department Head and Professor, Food Science and Technology, University of Georgia, USA.
Kenneth Schwartzel,
William Neal Reynolds, Distinguished and Emeritus Professor, North Carolina State University, USA.
Carol Wallace,
Professor of Food Safety Management Systems and co-director of the International Institute of Nutritional Sciences and Applied Food Safety Studies at the University of Central Lancashire, United Kingdom.
Dorota Witroa Richard,
Head of Department, Department of Food Engineering and Process Management, Institute of Food Sciences, Warsaw University of Life Sciences, Poland.
Ahmed Yousef,
Professor of Food Microbiology, Ohio State University, USA.
Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everybody. It's my turn to say thank you to so many people who've really helped make these last 2 years possible. I recognize them for their continued support, their continuing insights, particularly from an international community that gains different perspectives. Everyone has served valiantly, and I want to publicly recognize their contributions. I was elected to presiding officer for the Academy 2 years ago. And it's been a great experience working with the international community. I work in that space, particularly work with malnourished populations. So I feel that passion amongst all the people with whom I've had the real pleasure to work. Aman, you're the guy now, and it's been a real pleasure to work with you. As the incoming presiding officer for the Academy, I know that we'll continue the trajectory of excellence on behalf of the Academy and of the profession. Thank you, Mom, for your continued support through these last several years. Jen, Jiang Chen, and Alan Riley, and Peng Chao, thank you for your contributions as well. Peng Chao in particular, you've been there at every meeting, except for when you're on an airplane. You were the translator for Dr. Chen, for which I'm really grateful. We gained tremendous insights, the action items that really affect you, not only your population there in China, but importantly, would affect the population of the world. Thank you very much for contributing. Also, thank you very much to Fish Prakash and Mary Schmidl and Faridun Shahadi. Wonderful contributions. Mary, thank you for your rich history in the organization. I mean, certainly that we tracked and maintained the scientific integrity of the organization while being sensitive to the international issues. Faridun, your leadership in the scientific group is very valuable. And Fish, thank you for another perspective on the issues that affect not only the Indian population, but also the population of the world. Alistair Hicks and Paula Singh, thank you very much for your patience. Alistair, thank you for your continued support and keen insights. I often will keep you up late for these morning calls or late evening calls for you. But you've been really a stalwart, steadfast, as we try to make some positive difference in a very diplomatic way to really understand the dynamics of food science technology that affect people. And Paul, you and I discussed operations and what we could do to be different and update and really try to make positive approaches to the Academy. And you've been wonderful. Thank you for your continued response. And no matter where you're in the world, you are always there. Thank you very much, Paul. And thank you, too, to Ken Buckle, Emmanuel Chaquetis, Julia Jones, Darrell Lund, Ruth Oniago, George Oko, and Walter Spees. Thank you for your contributions in the election process and looking at bylaws and scientific organizations. You've been wonderful background and templates for really advancing the science and maintaining that quality of science, for which you continue to provide, I'm sure. I would encourage you to stay active with the Academy and certainly active within the food science and technology community. Ultimately, I want to thank everybody. Important of this graphic is the fact we want to recognize people at every continent, every background. We value everyone's perspective, wherever you might be in the world. That's the Academy. We're independent speakers, we're independent scientists, trying to do what we believe based on the evidence, the quality of that evidence really does the best for everybody. So pick your language. I've lived in many of these countries, by the way. Pick your favorite spot, but regardless, I want to just say thank you very much. Thank you for your kind service, and I trust we can work together again.
It is an honor and pleasure for me to introduce the Academic Council of IAFoST for the year of 2020-2022. Myself, my name is Aman Wirakartakusuma, the presiding officer for 2020-2022. And also, it's an honor for me to introduce the presiding officer-elect for 2020-2022, Charles Award.
I am Ogugwa Charles Awo, Distinguished Professor of Food Technology, University of Ibadan. I am committed to promoting global food science and technology and leveraging the diverse and huge expertise in IAFoST towards meeting the challenges of poverty and livelihoods, food safety and security in low and middle income countries for a better world, especially post-COVID-19.
I would like to thank the past presiding officers, Roger Clemens, which also working as the council for 2020-2022. I would like to introduce the counselor for 2020-2022, Chin Kun Wang.
Congratulations to all new fellows of 2020 IAFoST. I am Ching-Kun Wang from Taiwan, Zhongshan Medical University, the council member of IAFoST. IAFoST is a big and sweet family. Welcome to join us. Because of your participation and contribution, I believe IAFoST will have a very beautiful future. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we cannot face to face, but I believe we can meet each other in the future soon. Keep safe and good health. Thank you.
I would also like to welcome the new counselor for 2020-2022, Jairo Romero.
Hello, I am Jairo Romero from Colombia. In the recent years, I have been member of IAFoST Governing Council. I was also president of ALACTA, the Latin American and the Caribbean Association of Food Science and Technology. In 2016, I was elected fellow of the Academy, and this year I had the honor of being elected as counselor of the Academy. I'm really excited about working with the colleagues in the Academy to strengthen food science and technology, to strengthen the Academy as well as IAFoST, and to contribute to bring together the international food science and technology community with the Latin American and the Caribbean community, food science and technology community and resources that will be of great interest for all of us. Thank you very much, and I look forward to see you soon in the following days.
I would like to thank you for the trust and confidence for electing me as the presiding officer of the Academy for the years of 2020-2020. This wonderful woman, I would like also to thank you for the past presiding officer, Roger Clemens. Let me introduce myself. My name is Aman Wirakartakusuma. I was the former ambassador of Indonesia to UNESCO, former rector of IPB University, Bogor Agriculture University, and I was also the chairman of the Education Committee of IAFoST, and I was actively involved and engaged in Committee for Food Safety Curriculum Development of IAFoST. I would like to congratulate for the new fellows and the council, and looking forward to working with you all to advance the role and function of the Academy. In Indonesia, we have the saying gotong royong, which means that we can work together, hands in hand, and we can solve the problem what we are facing in the future of our organization. Thank you.
This concludes the celebration of the induction of new fellows into the International Academy of Food Science and Technology 2020 and recognition of the outstanding global scientists represented in the Academy and in its councils. Our gratitude is extended to distinguished lecturer, Professor Sir Charles Godfrey, for his important insights. There are challenges facing food scientists and technologists, but a hopeful message was included on how best we can continue to take leadership actions around our central role in improving food systems, conserving food supplies, and positively affecting the health and well-being of all the world's populations. Thank you for the dedicated service of Dr. Roger Clemens and the Academy Council 2018 to 2020. Congratulations to the new Academy Council about to begin their work alongside all of you. And again, congratulations to the new Fellows of the Academy 2020. We have missed seeing you in New Zealand, but look forward to meeting you instead in Singapore in 2022. Until then,